Anthropology. It's me, your host Nicholas. Hope you enjoyed our episode last week. Shout out to Nico. Thanks for pulling through. Restart. Okay. Hi everyone. It's me, Nick. And you're listening to Elitist Anthropology. I hope you enjoyed our episode last week where we had Nico. Shout out to Nico. We'll just get right into the pod today. Today we have, how can I describe this person? The love of my life. One of my greatest friends, the number one Indian man in New Jersey, the biggest baller that side of the Hudson, Varun Chopra. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Varun Chopra to the pod. Everyone in the room is clapping. Woo!
What's up, Nick? How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Quite a long commute coming here, but, made it out here for you.
How did you get here today?
How didn't I get here? We took a car to the bus stop, the bus to New York, the train down to Brooklyn, and then an Uber here. So, pretty much everything.
Did you see anything crazy on the way here?
Nah, it was pretty typical. The Uber driver I had actually, he was telling me about Buffalo, and we were talking about the snowstorms, just chit-chatting, and how we had one so far this year, but he mentioned Buffalo, and he kept talking about Buffalo, and I was like, what's going on with Buffalo?
Yeah.
And he was just like a bunch of people died in Buffalo from snowstorms, and I had no idea. I figured, I was like, yeah, they get a lot of snow, a lot more than we do.
Yeah.
But he had family there, and he was telling me people got trapped in cars, because
Oh my goodness.
I don't know, they ran out of gas or whatever.
Yeah.
They were going outside when they weren't supposed to. But yeah, shout out to Buffalo.
Shout out to Buffalo. We praying for everybody in Buffalo. Jeez. Well, that was dark.
Yeah.
But tell us about yourself, Varun. So I'll tell them about you first. Me and Varun met in 2018. Yeah?
Yeah, 2018.
Met in 2018. Have been very close friends ever since. He was my orientation leader in college. Groomer. Yeah.
He's my kid.
Yeah. Met on the first day. Have been best buds ever since. You work in finance.
Yes, sir.
Worked. Do you still feel like you work in finance?
Yeah, but it's way more relaxed now. So.
It's like in-house.
Yeah.
Yeah. What should the audience know about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered a lot of bases, right? Born and raised in New Jersey, came to NYU, didn't really know what I was doing. I actually, I don't even know if you know this, but I came to NYU actually to study math, and I was in CAS. I transferred into Stern. So then I eventually, was like, all right, business probably makes more sense. You can actually figure out a career path. And I didn't know what I was doing with math, but, I knew I was good at it. So, so I did business, did investment banking, the whole, 2-year program thing. And now, like you mentioned, I work in-house in finance at Acorns, which I think a lot of people have heard of, but, I could intro that later if you need me to.
Yeah. I mean, you just gave us the LinkedIn, but what else?
LinkedIn,
What else should people know about Varun Chopra?
That's true. I've been interviewing a lot recently, so other stuff about me. I mean, super into kind of just basketball, working out. Recently got into electric cars, which is really random, but that's another hobby I just recently kind of
we love
started talking about.
sustainability.
Exactly, yeah. A little bit into sneakers. I've gotten a little less into it over the last couple of years, but I was big into it in college, I think, as you know.
Do you have a lot of thoughts about the Nike app?
I mean, it's fine. There's really no better app out there. It's not perfect, but it's not great. But as I was saying, I haven't really been following sneakers in the last year or two. I mostly did it sort of like a trading type thing where I was making money off of it, and as you actually start a career and start working, you realize that $100 you'd get flipping a shoe, it was nice in college, but the effort's not really worth the reward anymore. So now it's kind of rare that I kind of buy a ton of shoes. Plus I have 20 pairs at home. So now I'm all right, let me relax. No more shoes. But yeah, it's still something cool that I like to follow. And it's cool to, at the airports recognize, hey, you got those kicks. I have the same ones at home. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's a little about me. I don't know what else to say. I mean, yeah, that's about it.
And how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. In a good place. I think after you leave the banking world, like there's only up from there. So
Yeah.
you know, over the past 2 years, just been sky high positivity. So
When I knew you during that time, I was like, oh, like you and also Sylvia, I was like, these guys are like depressed, like bad. Like this is
dude, we were in the trenches.
this is terrible.
Yeah, that sucked. That really sucked.
Terrible.
Yeah, that was definitely like darkest, lowest point of probably her life too, but definitely my life.
Yeah. Do you feel so before you went into banking, I remember we were talking about it and you were like, yeah. Because I was asking you, I was like, oh, should I get into it? And you were like, well, probably not. And every person that I've, talked to before this has told me not to do it, but like I have to get a bag either way, like win, lose, or draw. If you could turn back time, was that like still the right decision?
I think 100%, at least for me, right? I can never speak for someone else because it's not as simple as like, oh yeah, just get this job. It's like there's a whole process to it, right? There's like, you gotta be ready. I think your second year of college, be interview or not interviewing, but practicing interview questions, learning up on the industry, talking to people in the industry, and getting to it pretty much when you're still figuring yourself out in college. And that was kind of the hard part, right? So I didn't even know what I was doing. I barely knew what banking was, but I was like, all right, it's a bag. It makes a lot of sense. It opens up other opportunities later on, and
which it has
for sure.
Yeah.
Which is probably the biggest reason why I don't regret it. Did the experience suck? Yeah, but
well,
I don't regret it.
Let's backtrack a little bit. So, what is investment banking?
Yeah, sure. On a baseline level, like a lot of people think investment banking is kind of like Wolf of Wall Street, kind of like trading.
Yeah.
A lot of high energy, high testosterone, just bunch of males just kind of like screaming at each other type thing. You get a little bit of that, but it's not. There's nothing to do with trading at all. It's more so. The very simplified version is just buying and selling companies. Like you're helping a company sell itself. You're helping a company buy itself. So that's the very basic gist.
And before you came to school, were you familiar
with investment banking?
Yeah.
Before I came to NYU?
Yeah.
I had no idea what it was. I knew very little at all about anything in the higher education world or anything, after the higher education world.
Yeah.
I was in a high school suburban bubble. So
yeah, I was the same way. And so then when you were in school, when and why did you decide that investment banking was going to be the route that you were going to pursue? Obstacles be damned.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest reason was as I was doing my research on, when you're at Stern, right, the two very clear paths are consulting or banking, and then there's a bunch of other stuff that are popping up now, like sort of in the tech world, but I think Stern is still pretty geared to banking and consulting, even to this day.
Yeah, that's true. That's us.
Yeah, so, I was thinking about the two different routes, doing a little bit of research on both of those routes. Consulting made less money, which, first of all, that was the first thing I was concerned with. I didn't have much money growing up at all, or in college at all, so I was like, I want the biggest bag I can get. Like, I chose NYU over, other schools because I wanted the biggest bag you could possibly get. So, investment banking checked that box. The second box it checked was there's like we talked about, it opens up opportunities, right? So consulting does too, but banking does on another level. Like, it's just sort of like a checkbox on a resume where, people look at that and they're like, oh, you did that. So, like, for example, I'm in the middle of interviewing right now for potentially another job, and it's for like a manager position in the finance world, like another in-house position. They didn't even bother like checking my Excel skills. Like, a lot of these interviews, like they make you do some sort of modeling test. They didn't even bother. They were like, oh, you did banking for 2 years? All right, cool. You're good on that. Like, let's just talk.
Yeah.
So I think that's another reason why I did that. And frankly, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like, no one goes into banking like, yeah, that's what I want. This is what I want to do 20 years from now.
Yeah.
So it was another kind of like 2-year experience where after the 4 years of college, you're like, all right, I have another 2 years to really figure myself out, figure out what I want to do. It just buys me time while I'm making money and I'm getting good experience. So it was kind of a no-brainer in that regard.
Yeah.
At least for me, because I just didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah. And then the actual experience of it. So the investment banking world, I think, is really, really interesting, just in the sense that it's like you sort of start to understand, like, sort of like how do all the markets move? How does the world sort of work? So how did working in banking affect the way that you just sort of viewed class?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I mean, we could backtrack to, I guess, high school, then college, because I mean, my views on class just differed so greatly depending on how old I was, right? So I was, 16 years old, kind of just figuring myself out in high school, not really having an understanding of class because, it's a suburb in New Jersey. I don't think there was that much differential. I could be wrong. Like to this day, I could be wrong. I don't think there was much differential.
Think I felt the same way. I'm from a suburb of Dallas, and I think what it is that in the suburbs, class is coded in a way to make everyone look and feel equal, even if they aren't.
Yeah.
So it's like all the houses in your subdivision kind of look the same,
Yeah.
even if there could be a person in one who has a lot of money and one who's in another who doesn't.
Yeah.
Whereas like it's much easier to tell in like New York, your apartment is this big versus your apartment is that big.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, thinking through high school, didn't think too much of it. I didn't think, oh, I'm rich or I'm poor. I just average, I guess.
Yeah.
Then actually the first day I stepped into my dorm in NYU as a freshman, it clicked.
Really?
Because I mean, what's the reputation of NYU? It's like the rich kid school, right? That's where celebrities send their kids, go have fun for 4 years. I'll buy my way in, right?
No, I was literally telling my other friend that I was like, we did NYU all wrong. The only people that we know are normal. We only know other normal people like us. Like we should know someone with a PJ by now.
No, that's crazy. Because I was the same way, right? I think most of my friends were pretty normal. Yeah. But let me backtrack, right? The first day I walked in, right? Nothing crazy. I meet my roommates. I meet my suite mates. But my roommate specifically, quiet Mexican guy. He didn't really speak much to me over the summer because you know how you find out a couple months before. We spoke a couple times. Like he was like, "Yeah, I'll bring the microwave or whatever. I'll bring the fridge." Like that's about it. And I tried having conversation a couple times, but I don't know. He seemed just pretty quiet, and I was like, "That's fine. It's not a bad thing." So I walk in. He's already moved in, which is cool. And I open the closet. He has like 10 shirts hung up. I'm like, "Damn, I got 2/3 of the closet for myself. That's great." And I'm looking at his shirts. I'm like, pretty funky, pretty fancy, but whatever. And I didn't think too much about wealth or anything, but about a couple days in, he goes to shower and he put his like watch on a desk and I see his watch. I'm like, oh wow, that's a Rolex. I've never seen a Rolex in my life. So then I got to thinking, I was like, who is this guy? Like, I search him up. I search his last name up. I know where like he's from, Cancun actually, right? Which should have rung a bell, or should have rung an alarm, right? But I look him up. I find his dad. I find his like a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy is rich, like has multiple houses, has a penthouse in New York, mansion in Connecticut, whatever. Like this guy is up there, right? Yeah. And I was like, wow, this is not New Jersey anymore. So that was the first thing. And then I started meeting like normal people. Yeah. But even the normal people, I was like, yo, your parents have degrees?
Really?
Yeah. Like I didn't think too much of it in high school, but like my parents don't have that. So I like probably from like 10 years old plus, like I was the one filling out forms back home, like, whatever forms we need for school, like my parents signed it and I just filled it out. So I was like, whoa, these people, like their parents have money, like your dad's a president of a software company, like what? Like what does that even mean? So I definitely started learning more about the I guess class differential at NYU pretty much since the beginning. But like you mentioned, I think we gravitate towards people in our class, and it makes sense. How am I going to hang out on the weekends with someone who casually has $1 million in their bank account?
Oh my goodness!
Because they want to go do something that costs $300.
They want to do something crazy. Like my freshman year, we had you have like a group chat, all the people, whatever, and they're like, "Oh, you guys, like we should buy a table at Lavo." Yeah. I didn't know what Lava was. I only saw people.
I didn't know what a table was.
I only saw people buy tables on like Love and Hip Hop. So I was like, okay, yeah, like let's buy a table. I was like, well, how much could it be? I'm thinking like, hey, I still have like some graduation money saved up. And like I'm about to get another job. Like I can splurge this weekend. And they were like, oh, well, the promoter's telling me that it's gonna be $15,000, but we can split it 5 ways, and then it's only 3. Yeah. And Nicholas has exited the chat. Like I was like, absolutely not. But it's a totally different world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was out here trying to do free things. Like there's tons of free things to do in New York, so I wasn't too worried about that. But
Yeah.
I can't be hanging out with the rich of NYU.
Yeah. So you do end up like sort of like self-segregating.
Yeah, and it's due to class, due to money.
Yeah. And so then when you got to banking, how did that shift it further?
I think a little bit. So I mean, at that point, right, in banking, it doesn't really matter, where you're from, what your background is. Like everyone's making a baseline amount of money, right? I mean, disclaimer for anyone who's not in the know, but like you're making 6 figures right out of college in banking at minimum. So everyone's like, for your age, you're in the top 1% of like income, right? So at that point, people are like, yeah, let's get a table, or let's do this activity that's costs like $500. It doesn't really matter, right? Our bonuses are going to cover that and more.
Right.
So, you could totally fall into kind of, I don't want to call it a trap because it's not necessarily a trap, but you could totally fall into that mindset of like, oh yeah, I don't mind spending $1,000 here, $500 here.
Yeah.
Because everyone else is doing it and I can afford it. So why not?
Yeah.
But, I did my best to avoid it because I still came from that mindset of like, I don't really have money just because I'm making money right now. I still don't have much to my name. I'm still in the accumulation phase, right? So, and that's still me to this day, actually, right? I'm still.
I was gonna ask, like, do you I don't know if you would call that like class anxiety, but do you still have that sort of like economic anxiety around your purchases and the things that you do of like, I'm still on the come up?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've had this goal of mine to like be a millionaire by 30, and I feel like until I get to that goal, it's so arbitrary, but until I get to that goal, I'm gonna have that mindset.
Really?
I went to the movies last night with a buddy of mine, or 2 nights ago with a buddy of mine, and we were about to. It was just me and him watching Cocaine Bear.
I still haven't seen Cocaine Bear. Was it good?
No, it's not. I mean,
well, was it good in the sense of like, it was
good.
so much fun to watch?
If you know what you're getting into,
yeah,
which I did. Didn't really, but I expected it to just be like a silly movie, like you just sit there for 2 hours to.
Was it good? Like Megan was good.
Kind of, yeah. Like it was something I would probably never watch again, but it's something sort of like, it's quirky, it's stupid, it's like it's a bear that does cocaine and goes around killing people. Like you're getting what you're expecting.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, it's good, but like it's not a good movie.
I see.
But where was I going with this, right? So like we went to buy tickets, right? We went to buy tickets, and it was like, I don't know, $35 for 2 tickets on the AMC website. And I was like, hold up, like I think my company does a little discount. And we paid $25 for the 2 tickets. It took me an extra minute. It wasn't a big deal, but like I still have that sort of like conscious thinking of like, oh well, I can get the same good for whatever, like 25% off. So let me do that. And I think that's a good mindset to have generally. I mean, some people kind of go OD with it, with like coupon clipping or whatever. I don't do all that, but I think if it's minimal effort and I could save a certain amount of money, I'll almost always take that option.
And why is a million by 30? Where did that come from? Why does that exist?
It's a good question. I don't know exactly where it came from. I think where it came from. This kind of This kind of goes into like my background of being Indian, kind of. But whenever you're at like a party, like family party, whatever, a bunch of Indians, aunts and uncles, whatever, they come up to you when you're probably like 16 to 18 plus and just start asking you like the M word, like, when are you getting married? Like,
oh really?
Yeah. And they don't like, they're obviously not like expecting you to get married at 18, but they're like, oh, you're kind of an adult now. Like it's time. Like, I get
you're getting up there.
You're getting up there in age, right? You're going to college soon and you're going to graduate at 22. After that, you're set, right? There's nothing else to do but get married, at least in their eyes, right? So in my eyes, I was like, let me flip the M word, right? So I don't want to get married at like 40, right? But like 30 is a pretty normal age.
Yeah.
22, 25 was pretty young to me. So I was like, let me see if I can become a millionaire by 30 and then I'll consider marriage. And I thought that was a great way to kind of shut them up because that was my response to them. I was just like, I'm not getting married till I'm a millionaire. And then in most people's heads, they're like, oh, he's never getting married. Like it's going to, being a millionaire is like a big thing, right? Like you might not ever be a millionaire if you're like in suburban New Jersey, you're thinking from that perspective, and then they give up and they're like, all right, whatever, let's move on to the next kid. So that stopped them, and it still stops them to this day. And I did the math too. It wasn't just kind of like a crazy number by 30. It was like, it's reasonable. Like it'll take some cost cutting and making certain money here and there, but it's doable by 30. And but it's still a goal. It's not like I'm gonna cruise into it. So that's kind of why I chose that number and that age.
I think that brings me to something that I thought was so interesting. So before I had moved to New York, I really did not know any Indian people, like at all. Okay. I had one friend who was Bangladeshi, and that was
like, close.
Yeah, no, but I'm like, I'll tell people sometime, like, my one Indian friend growing up was from Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Then I moved here, and I found out that New Jersey is like Indian HQ in America.
Yes, it's up there for sure.
I had no idea that this was like this is the place. So can you just talk to me about like what is that like growing up like in a diaspora, but like also being like in Indian America?
Yeah, dude, it's weird, man. Honestly, it's really weird. So I mentioned this to you. I think I texted this to you like a few weeks ago. I started watching this show called Never Have I Ever by Mindy Kaling, and it really encapsulates like the Indian American, I guess, feeling growing up. So pretty much, you know, I'd say you kind of group Indians into like a couple different subdivisions, I guess, right? So there's like the Indians like that straight up are from India, right? That's one whole section of Indians, right? Then there's like the Indian Americans that are really in tune with their culture. So those are like, you know, they're American. They get things around here. They're hip, but they're still very like Indian focused. Like, you know, they want their kids to like have the same values instilled into them. Like they care about, you know, praying or whatever Indians be doing like on a daily, weekly basis. And then there's like the Indians that sort of are more on the American side that kind of like, they don't really care as much. Like they'll respect the culture, but they don't really care too much. Like they're more American than they are Indian. And then all the way on the right side of the spectrum is like the fully whitewashed Indians where like they know nothing. And honestly, I'm probably in between the last two things I said, right? So you know, I respect the culture. Like I get, you know, that's what my parents believe in, right? That's what they've been brought up in. And to an extent, that was sort of my identity at probably when I was younger. But as I got older, especially when I got to college, I was just like, you know, this isn't me. Yeah. Not no offense or anything, but I just don't believe in any of it. It's just not something that is part of really my true identity. So yeah, I've strayed again, not against the culture, but I've strayed towards other things, just sort of being more of an American who happens to have Indian descent. Yeah. Right. So like when someone asks me where you're from, I say New Jersey. Right. Like, and then, you know, obviously what they're getting at is where you're from, right? And they always have to ask that follow up. And then I'm like, oh yeah, my parents are from India. Like I always emphasize that my parents are from India.
Does that create like strain in your relationships, like within your family or within your community?
Yeah, I'd say so actually. Not within my community, but I'd say within my family for sure. Like, you know, my mom has all these weird rules, and I'd say same with my dad. They have these weird rules based on whatever cultural or, you know, whatever background it might come from. I'm not even sure. And I'm just like, that doesn't make sense. Like, you know, they had this weird rule when we were younger. You can't clip your nails at night. And really? Yeah, dude, I was just like, why? Like, I respect your rule and I won't do it, you know, but can you explain to me why? Like, what is the, you know, spiritual reason? And they never had a reason for it. So I think that also contributed to me being like, well, I don't really care for it. If you gave me like, even if it was made up, like some sort of like BS kind of thing where it has something to do with like some certain god or something, I would have believed it for longer. But certain things like that, it just didn't click with me. Like no eating meat on Tuesdays. Why? Why can't I eat meat today? Yeah. And they're like, you just can't. So
we live in a society.
Yeah, we live in a society. So yeah, those types of things, I just didn't click with me. So in college, I never followed any of that stuff. I come back home, right, after the pandemic. I'm living with my parents again. And, you know, Tuesdays, nobody in my house is eating meat. Not my brother, not my sister, you know, no one. And I'm right there, you know, cooking up eggs, cooking up chicken. And my mom's freaking out. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, mom. Like, if you're not gonna let me eat what I want to eat here, like, I will go outside and like get Chipotle or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not gonna stop me. So and it's not meaning to be disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand the reasoning behind this restriction.
And so, what has that been like coming to live with your parents again? So you were in college, then you lived in the city for a little while, and then pandemic after your lease ended, you go back home.
Yeah.
What has it been like living with your parents now as like an adult man?
Oh yeah. It's different, man. I mean, honestly, like all my high school friends still live with their parents. Like
Mm-hmm.
some of them haven't even gone to lived in a dorm setting or anything like that. Like so they commuted to college.
Yeah.
But it's not crazy or anything. But there's certain things where you have to set boundaries. Like it's kind of like work life balance at a job, right? Like you need to be the one to speak up to set certain boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, they're like, oh yeah, this is 16-year-old Varun again, right? Like don't come back home after like 10 p.m. Like they'll start calling me, and I've told them like text me, I'll respond to you, but if you call me like over and over again, like it's just not gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not gonna be responding to you every 5 minutes, and also like you guys need to like just relax. I've like every time I go to New York, they're worried. They're like, oh my god, what are you doing? Like, are you?
Aw.
Yeah, because like I don't know. To them, New York's a whole big thing, and to me, it's just like my second home, pretty much. Right, I've been
Yeah.
here for like 5+ years, so it's never a big deal for me to go to New York. It's just a typical thing. Whereas for them, it's an outing. Like they haven't like my sister, and my dad were just discussing like we should go to New York. We haven't gone in so long, and
Mm-hmm.
in my head, I'm just like, oh, I go like every weekend. It's just sort of like, oh, that's where I see my friends.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little different. But it's fun, man. It's fun living with my family. Honestly, like I don't
Mm-hmm.
mind it. We don't have like a bad relationship or anything.
Yeah. Has your relationship like shifted from pandemic time to now that we're sort of like back in the normal? Because I know like a lot of people, myself included, whenever I went back home during the pandemic, because we were in a bubble, it was a much tighter family unit than it had ever been
Yeah,
in the last like 10 years.
yeah,
Whereas like now, like me and my mom, we went from seeing each other every single day, basically nonstop for 11 months or whatever. My mom called me the other day and she was in Honduras and she was like, oh, I'm lost. Can you like can you talk to this guy on the phone for me and like tell me where we are? And so now like we just don't see each other as often. We don't talk as much, and so yeah, it's just things have just changed.
yeah,
But I think part of that is because like I left again. Like as soon as I realized I could get my life back,
yeah.
I was like, okay, like I'm out of here.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if I leave, one thing I've wanted to do is live in LA for a year. If I leave, like I know that's gonna happen too. Like we're not gonna talk every day. We're not gonna see each other every day. And then no offense, I'm not gonna be calling them every day. It's just like, you get busy with life and you're doing things. And if you're, like, let's say I'm in LA, you're exploring a city where you're not as familiar with, so you're gonna be just constantly doing things. And the last thing on your mind is like, oh, let me just make sure to call my parents every single day. Like, I'll talk to you probably a couple times a week, but I think that's pretty normal.
Yeah. Wow. Very fascinating.
Yeah.
I want to talk about cars.
Let's talk about cars. No pro, but let's do it.
I don't know. Like he says no pro. Like so obviously people in New York don't drive. So when I was in school, didn't really know anybody that had maybe I knew one person that actually I had one friend whose boyfriend had a car.
Okay.
And every once in a while we would like end up there.
Yeah.
My entire time knowing you didn't have a car until
after
back.
college. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you're like the biggest EV head ever.
Yeah.
Can you tell the audience about electric vehicles?
Yeah, I mean, there's some misconceptions around electric vehicles. Some of them are somewhat true, some of them aren't. So, there's a lot of people that are like really, really into cars, right? Like that's like their hobby, right?
Yeah.
And all of them will have like these, muscle cars, sports cars, whatever you want to call them. Big engines, loud, those types of cars, right? Where you drive past and like you get everyone's attention type thing. Those people, man, they're gonna stick to those gas cars for as long as possible. But for for everyone else, like I think if you can afford it, it makes a lot of sense to go electric. Short term and long term, there's a lot of credits involved with just making a car more affordable. Like electric cars, no doubt, are more expensive than most gas cars.
Yeah.
There's cheap options out there, but for the the most part. Electric cars are pretty expensive, but there's credits, man. Like the government's doing like 7,500 off. It's like a tax credit, so that's, you know, if your car is let's call it 50K, right? Look, we actually just bought a Tesla for my dad. I think originally the Teslas were like 45K or something like that, like the Model 3.
Yeah.
They just recently reduced their price. Let's call it to, I don't know, 42 something, right?
Yeah.
There's the $7,500 tax credit. Then there's another credit, at least in New Jersey, where you get $4,000 off the purchase of an electric car. So that's like almost $12,000 off a car. Plus, there's no sales tax in New Jersey when you buy electric, right? When you buy a $30,000 gas car, like anywhere, you're paying like $3,000 just in taxes, right? Straight to the government. But you don't pay that when you buy electric in New Jersey. So I think New Jersey is probably one of the top states to buy an electric car. I can't speak for New York. I haven't done the research in New York. But I know New Jersey and California are up there. It just makes a lot of sense. You're driving a lot anyway. You're never going to pay gas anymore. Most people think you got to charge at these electric stations.
Yeah, how do you charge it? Do you charge it at home? Is there, in my mind, I imagine that there's just like a big, like, clown-sized plug in the wall.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, got to plug in my car. And
you're not wrong, honestly. It's so a lot of people think, right, you go to like a gas station. Like that's where you get your fuel for a gas car. A lot of people think actually you go to these electric stations and you fuel your electric car, and that's not wrong. You do that in a pinch, but that should never ever be your like main source of fuel. That's only if you're in a pinch, you're about to run out of fuel, or you're on a road trip. I think that's it. Like I don't really go to the electric stations. For the most part, you're charging at home, and you literally could charge in like the normal outlet you charge your iPhone in, like the 110 outlet, but you're gonna get really slow speeds. So what most people should do is you level up, right? That's called like a level 1 charger. Most people need the level 2, which is what we did. We installed a 240 volt charger, which is, it's not the clown plug charger or anything like that, but it's a bigger, more powerful charger.
Okay.
It looks pretty similar to the 110 volt, honestly, just a little bigger. And you plug in your car there, and it charges from pretty much 0 to 100 like in 8 hours, like overnight, right?
Yeah.
So you drive for a week, overnight one night, like let's call it a Sunday night.
So the charge lasts all week.
I mean, it depends how much you're driving, right?
Yeah, but like it's just like for normal. I'm going to the work. I'm going to the gym. I'm just doing normal stuff.
For me, where I don't drive much because I work from home, I could have a charge last like a month. If it depends on where I'm driving, right? But if I'm only going to the gym or supermarket, because the range in like a typical EV is like 250 miles. So getting a lot of range. But in general, like if you're commuting to work, let's call it 10, 20 miles, like it'll probably last you a week. And then you just charge it up one night, you wake up and bam, it's back at 100. You could do that every night if you want to, like you charge your iPhone. But that's another thing that people don't think about, like the 5-10 minutes you're spending at the gas station every week, like it's not much, but it adds up, and you're never doing that anymore
ever again.
You're just plugging your car in, just like you're plugging your iPhone.
So what was your what converted you into an EV head?
Two things. I mean, one, obviously the sustainability aspect. I think that's awesome.
We love sustainability on the pod.
Yeah, I mean, there's one minor issue with it, with the sustainability. People call out that it takes a lot of resources to mine the batteries.
Yes, it does. Yes,
it does, right?
It does, yeah.
But long term, it kind of pays for itself versus just constantly using fossil fuels. So you can't compare like year 0 of an electric vehicle to year 0 of a gas car. You have to think about the life of the car. Yeah. The life of a car, it obviously is much more sustainable than a gas car. So that's one thing. The second thing is, like I mentioned, the sort of price to value ratio, like net price right now for a Tesla, like the Model 3, like what we got my dad's for is like 30 to 35K, which is crazy because people were paying 50 to 60K for the same car not even a year ago. Yeah. So, like, it just makes so much sense. So, I don't think it's for everyone. Like, if you're working from home and barely driving, maybe it still makes sense to have a gas car. Yeah. Because you're not using much fuel. Electric cars really pay for themselves if you're someone that's driving a lot, commuting. I think that's probably the perfect time to have one.
And so, well, two things. The first thing is, like, I feel like a lot of people don't know that, and I only learned this because I took like a class in school on energy and how it all works, is that like there was a time in the 20th century, there are some people that are still alive that can remember this, where gas cars and electric cars were like 1-to-1 on the road. Electric cars were very common. Or somewhere in like the mid 20th century, oil companies realized that like gas is going to be the main use of petroleum in America, and they start being like, basically, fuck that shit. At any turn that we can fight the electric car companies and make gas the primary use, that's what we're going to do. And so like imagine Chevron, BP, we all know all the bad stuff that they do everywhere in the world today to keep gas in the game. Imagine what they would have done at the beginning when it was the turning point of deciding whether their product was going to be 100% essential and necessary to the function of modern life or not. And there's a really good documentary, I forget the name of it, where basically in the early 2000s even, California was going to implement this regulation to make it so that every car dealership had to sell a certain amount of electric cars. Okay. So a certain percent of your revenue had to come from the sale of electric cars, which obviously is going to push gas cars off the lot. Yeah. The oil company in California said, absolutely not. They fought it from the bottom all the way to the top. And there's a really iconic clip of there's a regulatory board that was going to decide this in California. California's government is run a lot off of these like regulatory councils. Okay. And they get to the thing. Clearly the board had already made their decision, but there's like all these environmentalists and activists that are there saying like, you know, we need electric cars on the road. Like we need to do this. Like we need to make this happen. They did like 8 hours worth of testimony. A guy who worked for one of these like dummy organizations for the oil companies comes up and it's like, you know, these people today, they said a lot, but they're all wrong. And the guy on the board is like, yeah, for real. And the whole thing just dies. And even at GM for a while, they had an electric car division in the early 2000s. They did this whole pilot. They ended up selling like 5,000. People were driving them. People were loving them because I think EVs just as a product have like a cult. They have a cult around them. For sure. But even the people within the organization, the people that worked inside of the gas car parts of the organization were like, we're not going to be cannibalized. It was a total like Kodak film camera situation.
They bodied the EV industry, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So they like pushed out that department and got it shut down. So I think it's interesting now that there is a sort of like a culture war around it of like, you know, I want to drive a real car. Like, you know, I want to really be out here.
Well, that's still a thing, dude, for sure.
Yeah, but it's like there was a time before when this has always been a part of like how people drive. This has always been an option. It's not really even new technology that exists to a certain extent.
But I think it's more viable now, right? The electric cars that were built way back then, I mean, I don't like you couldn't charge the battery fast. So like like the modern day, like really nice, like $50,000 roughly SUVs, right? Yeah. Electric cars, you can charge from like 20 to 80% in like 15 to 20 minutes. Like that's like mimicking, or it's getting close to like how much time you'd spend at a gas station. Yeah. And that's what you need for like mainstream adoption. You need fast charging, and you need charging available like anywhere, like a gas station, right? You're not worried when you're on a road trip and you're driving a gas car and like, you know, you're like, oh, I'm almost at E. Like I'll probably find a gas station within 10 minutes. Yeah. Whereas electric cars, you got to plan it. Like I've done a road trip to DC and back in an electric car. I had to plan out my route way more than like you don't plan out where you're going to stop when you're driving a gas car. You just stop when you feel like stopping or when you need gas. Yeah. For electric car, you need to plan it. So that part still kind of needs work to really get to the mainstream level, and that's going to take years. But you know, we're getting there. It'll happen, and if it doesn't, frankly, there's regulations. I think by 2035, like the federal government announced, by 2035, there should be no more sales of gas cars. Like they're going to be banned, right? So it's just going to lead to even more increased EV adoption.
Yeah, yeah. How much do you pay when you charge your car at a gas station?
It's a good question, right? It depends where you are, but I'll speak to, you know, probably the tri-state area generally. Yeah. It used to be crazy, right? You heard the gas prices in the news all the time. Now they've died down, right? They're back to normal. It's like $3 to $3.50 a gallon roughly, right? So you might pay like $40 or so to fill up like a car or an SUV. So yeah.
And then how much do you pay if you're charging?
So that's sort of like really variable. Like if you're charging at a EV station, you might be paying like $30 or so. Yeah. So it's not much savings at this point. It was when gas prices were really high, but
Yeah.
the real savings are when you're charging at home, which you should be like 99% of the time.
Yeah.
It's your electricity bill, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really checked ours since we got the EVs, but I don't think it's probably marginally increased.
And now you have 2 or 3.
We have 2.
Mm-hmm.
So we bought the Tesla Model 3 and we bought a Chevy Bolt.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. And so then, like, when it comes to brands, I feel like people, when they think of electric cars, they think of Tesla.
Yeah,
That's like the sort of
it's Apple.
It's the Apple. It's
Yeah.
like the gold standard, or at least the one that's like the most known.
Yeah.
But like, what are the other players in the market that it's like these people are also making really good cars?
So I mean, I've driven a few. I've owned a few. I'd say there's a couple contenders. Like, I'd say honestly, Tesla is it's Apple for a reason, right? It's just that damn good. Like, their software is really nice. The feel is really nice. It feels premium, and it's affordable. But I think other players that should still get some love are probably, like, price aside, because Tesla just recently crushed the competition with prices because they can they have way higher
They're
margins.
just that volume.
Yeah, no, their margins are so much higher than all the other manufacturers because they've been in the game for longer, right?
Yeah.
So they've maximized kind of how they can make profits. So they cut their prices so low now to where it doesn't make sense to, like, financially, to buy almost any other EV besides a Tesla, unless, like, you just hate Elon or you hate Tesla or you just don't like the look or you want it to be different. Like, but financially speaking, it makes no sense to get anything besides a Tesla. But other really good cars in the game are Ford. Ford's been killing it, right? If you're an SUV person, like, they have the Mach-E, so that's their take on the Mustang, but sort of SUV version and electric version. I've driven that. It's a beautiful car on the outside. It's really fun to drive. Their software is pretty good. Again, nothing compares to Tesla, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Kia has been really good too. So Kia is a surprise player because I feel like it's been a pretty bad. It's had a bad reputation as a gas car brand.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, when you think of branding and sort of the images behind cars, you have to put aside your feelings on the gas cars versus the electric cars because they're different, man. Toyota is known to be reliable. It'll take you 200,000 miles.
Yeah.
They're a no name in the electric world.
Really?
Like, nobody knows Toyota. Nobody talks about Toyota. Toyota, frankly, does not really even make many electric. I think they make like one car and it had like a ton of defects. Same with Honda. So, like, the two reliable gas cars are just not a thing in the EV world. So Kia, I think, is not a great gas car brand. Recently they've come up again, but historically, but electric car wise, they make a really good technology. They make really nice cars, and the price is not terrible. Like, I owned a Kia EV6, beautiful SUV, comparable to the Mustang Mach-E. I frankly liked it better than the Mach-E. It had better range. It was just more fun to drive personally, but I'd say those two are really good competitors to Tesla. And I think that, as they figure out ways to make their car either more affordable or they just make more money on their car, I think those will be more mainstream. They don't make any money actually off them. So
Really?
At least Ford announced.
Are they selling them at cost?
No, they're selling them actually below cost. So, like, they're actually losing money on these cars.
Is it just they just want to break into the market? It's just like,
I mean, I don't know the deep, kind of what's going on under the hood pretty much, but that's what they announced. Like, they don't they actually lose money on each car. So Ford actually raised prices for their Mach-E a couple months ago because they were like, hey, we don't make money on these, so we need to raise the prices by like 5,000. And people were like, okay, makes sense. And then Tesla's like, all right, here's my trap car. Like, I'm gonna cut costs by like 2,000. So now if you're a consumer, you're like, well, why would I pay 5,000 more for this when I could pay like even way less for the Tesla?
Yeah.
So it just makes no sense to get the Mach-E anymore. And I actually read a report recently about the EV6. When it was first announced last year, it was pretty hot. Like, if you wanted it, like, impossible to get. They were selling like hotcakes off the lot. And since the tax credit is no longer eligible for the EV6, their demand fell off a cliff.
Oh,
right?
really?
So now nobody's buying EV6s. They're selling like 1,000 a month in the entire United States.
Oh, wow.
So nobody's buying them because everyone's going to Tesla now.
Really, really, really. So then, how does having an electric car play into maintenance?
That's a good question. That's actually one thing a lot of people are concerned about.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like car enthusiasts specifically, like my father, who's a mechanic, he's always been like, I only want a car where I can fix everything, like, because
Yeah.
he actually can.
I think about that a lot. I mean, not so much with electric vehicles, but I really do not like non-tactile cars. I think that is so dangerous. I think it is such a bad idea. And I have a friend who has a Volvo.
Okay.
She's got a brand new. She got it last year. It was a brand new Volvo 2022, whatever.
Yeah.
And the screen was like they would be driving and just black out.
That's
and
crazy,
so
yeah.
she took it to the shop or
Yeah.
to the dealership. They're like, it was a lease. Okay, they're gonna fix it. They give it back, blacked out again, back at the dealership for 2 months, and like it was her first car. And so when I was in high school, I drove a junker, like a total piece of shit. It was a 2000 Ford Taurus. Wasn't a total piece of shit. I was very lucky to have a car when I was in high school. And my mom will get mad if I say that. I was very lucky to have a car that I could drive to take me to all the places I need to go.
Yeah.
But it was a 50-50 chance every time I turned the ignition was going to turn on. So I would get into accidents, whatever. But at some point, the insurance company was like, we will not give you any more money to fix this car because it's 15 years old.
Yeah.
So I just started going to the junkyard and like getting pieces for the car, and I would just pay my mechanic to like install it and like fix it and stuff. But I'm like, I can only do that because these are real parts.
Right.
And like I could just go and just find one. I can find a Camry from 2007 and put that light on it. I can find this engine piece here and I can put that on it. But when you're dealing with a car that's like a computer, not only do you have the problems of it just like not working, but it's like also like the fix is not just fix.
And when it comes to maintenance, right, there's like with gas cars, there's oil changes and small things like that, where you constantly have to maintain the car for long-term performance. There's really no such thing for electric cars. There's no engine, right? It's just a battery. So there's nothing like small like that you have to worry about besides tires.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, you can't do what you said, right? You can't go to a junkyard and get a computer part to fix it unless you really, really know what you're doing, which most people don't.
Yeah.
And frankly, most mechanics probably are not aware or don't care enough to learn about the electric vehicle world. So you have to go to Tesla or to Ford or wherever you bought the car and get it fixed, which will cost way more money. So it's definitely something to consider. Like you're going to be paying a lot. Well, long term, you're not going to pay as much in maintenance because there's less to maintain. But when you do, maintain whatever you got to like fix, right? Like there's a computer part that blows out, that's going to cost more in the short term, right? Like instead of like $100 here and there that you have to pay for your gas car, it might be like a $500 all of a sudden purchase that comes out of nowhere. But long term, it should still be less.
It's because like the sort of like production route of those types of cars is so different. And I think like maybe that's, I mean, there's something to be said for the VCification of everything and of every industry, but I think you really feel it in the car industry because it's like you can't just go buy this part. It doesn't exist yet. The parts are made in conjunction of the car. We're trying to keep the costs down. We're trying to manage the input. You know, like, what's it called? Like we're using like the agile software methodology in the creation of these cars.
That's right.
And so that makes it so that when you go to the Tesla thing to fix, I guess it's not a carburetor, but to fix X, Y, and Z, it's like no, like we have to make this part now.
Yeah, we actually had an issue with ours. Like we just bought it and we had an issue. It just bricked. Like my dad called me up and he was coming home from work, or he was trying to come home from work. He was like, "Hey, my car's not turning on. Like I can't access it." And I was like, "Oh, Dad, you're being silly. Turn on Bluetooth on your phone, and you'll because your phone opens the car, right?"
And just open the app.
Just open the app. But then I was just like, all right, clearly it's not working after talking to him. So me and my brother, we drive to his work. We're trying it ourselves, and we're like, oh, it's not working. We call up Tesla support, and they're like, yeah, we can't even find your Tesla on the map. Like we don't like it's like offline. And we're like, what the hell's going on? We find out, it gets towed to the shop or to the Tesla location. They fix it after a few days. We find out the battery, like the small battery died. So not the main battery that's like effectively the engine that but it's like the battery that every car has, like the gas cars have. That it just like was dysfunctional or something like that. So they had to go and fix it. But that's a problem we couldn't diagnose because my dad's a mechanic, but not for electric cars.
That's so like to me like that's that's the scary part of like
Yeah.
of having such a high tech car. I'm like, no, I want a Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a thing to think about. Like,
And it's like you
high
can't
tech.
even. Can you push a Tesla? Like, can you put it in neutral and push it?
Yeah, I think so. Why wouldn't you be able to?
Like in that situation.
Well, I wasn't there, but it got towed, so
Mhm.
someone had to move it.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, very cool. Okay, now so Varun, Varun and I have this other friend. Her name is Sylvia. We have a Venn diagram that I keep updated. In the center of our Venn diagram is cheapskates.
Okay.
But I don't want to talk about being a cheapskate, but I do want to talk about financial planning.
Yeah.
Because I feel like for people that are our age, there's no real ethos or methodology that people really adopt. It's more of like an older man's game. So like, just like, how are you approaching planning for your financial future? And like, what matters to you, what doesn't matter to you, and what are you thinking of the market as we go into in a recession?
Yeah.
Reasonable minds disagree on that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot to like unpack on that question. I guess probably the first thing I'd say is like just personal finance wise. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's called personal finance for a reason. So everyone has their own thinking or method or strategy that works for them
Yeah.
personally. And I'm no different, right? I might do things that you might disagree with, or we might agree on things. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's your money, it's your finances. So you have to always kind of like think for yourself. Like there's so many minds and ideas out there that echo a bunch of the same things, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that aside, disclaimer aside, I think the first thing to think of when you think of like the markets right now is, inflation, right? Everyone's been talking about inflation. What actually is inflation, right?
Mm-hmm.
If anyone doesn't know, it's just sort of like the price of goods, like just the general cost of goods, like to
Mm-hmm.
live your day to day life. And everyone hears like, oh, it's been going up by 6%, 7%, 8%. It's expected to go back down to like normal levels of like 2% or so,
Mm-hmm.
2 to 3%, by middle to end of the year, which is a good thing. Like that's what you want,
Yeah.
and hopefully the government kind of ends up getting there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a whole discussion aside. But anyway, everyone's been talking about this big, 6 to 7% number.
Yeah.
And if you're not like if you're making $100,000 a year, and inflation's at 7%, and let's say you get a 3% salary bump, you actually lost money year over year, right?
Yeah. Real wages went down.
Real wages went down, exactly. So the whole point of why I bring inflation into this is, like your money needs to be working for you to beat inflation, or at
Mhm.
least hedge inflation, right?
Mhm.
If your
Explain
money,
what hedge means.
yeah, let me get to that. So,
Okay.
if your money's sitting there, like in your wallet, in your under your mattress, or in your bank account, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not making money off your money, right? It's just
Right.
sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
If you have $20,000 in your bank account, it's $20,000 today. It's $20,000 a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas everything just went up 6% in price.
Mm-hmm.
So your $20,000 next year buys less than it does this year.
Now it's 18,000.
Sure, yeah, it's like 18,000 or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the whole point of investing is accumulating wealth, growing your money to make sure that you're beating that, like to where your $20,000 is actually 22,000 the next year as opposed to 18,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you want to make sure you're beating inflation at the very, very least.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of like I'd say the core of kind of like the financial services industry. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
the end goal, to beat inflation and to accumulate wealth. So it's been a real tough game beating 6 to 7%, because
Yeah.
historically that's what the market returns, and that's what people put their money. They put their money in the market to get the 6 or 7%.
Mm-hmm.
But now, since prices are going up 7%, and you
Mhm.
can only expect 7% in returns every year, you're netting out to nothing. Your $20,000 today is $20,000 next year too.
Mm-hmm.
The real people, I don't want to say losers, but the real people that kind of get screwed over are the people that aren't keeping up with that and
Yeah.
aren't investing, and that's why inflation is so dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Super high inflation, obviously super bad because prices go up a lot.
Yeah.
Really, really low or even negative inflation is also really bad, right? Because then people are expecting prices to get lower, and then no one spends, because
Yeah.
you're just going to save your money, because whatever you're going to buy today, it's going to be worth less a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
So why not save my money and wait? And then businesses kind of like have to cut jobs, they have to cut costs because they're not making any money. So that's another thing to think about. But anyway, the whole kind of thing I'm trying to get at is the market's kind of crazy right now.
Yeah.
Inflation's rampant, but hopefully slowing down. And to beat inflation, like, you have to be investing in the market. I think one really interesting thing is, since the market's been so choppy and kind of like all over the place, I think the past year it's been down like 5% actually. So
Yeah.
kind of getting double whammied right there. Inflation going up and your money's going down in the market. Some people are kind of trying to flock to, I guess, less risky assets.
Yeah.
So there's like, the fixed income market, which is like bonds and CDs, certificates of deposits, and they're actually offering crazy rates right now. Like, you're getting 5 to 7% returns in essentially riskless assets, right? So like, if someone's offering you 5 or 6% for your money, for like if you invest your money for a year, why wouldn't you take that when historically you've always been thinking, oh yeah, I need that 7% return every year. You're getting slightly less than that, but for no risk, versus investing in the stock market, which is inherently risky.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that people should consider. Like, I think the fixed income market's kind of where a lot of people want to keep their money, and that's where the hedging comes in. That's where you're hedging inflation, right? Inflation's at that 5, 6, 7% number, and that's what you're getting here in the fixed income market. You're not gonna make money, but your 20,000 will still be worth 20,000, which is at the baseline of what you need to do. So that's just some rough things I want to get off. But if you wanted to talk specifics, I'm happy to.
Well, we can be as specific as you want, but basically just like, okay, you're Varun, you get paid on the 15th and the 30th. Yeah. When you get that check on the 30th, what do you do with it?
Okay, yeah, I could break that down, right? Obviously, some goes to taxes. I'd say, I don't know what the percentage is, but a good percentage of it goes to the 401k, where I'm maxing that out. Yeah. So what is, I think 401k max is like 22,000 or something like that this year. So whatever that is divided by 24 paychecks, that goes into the 401k. Then there's pretty much the rest of it, right? The rest of it goes into my bank account. Yeah. And that kind of gets dispersed too, right? So I'd either keep it there for just temporary liquidity. I might invest it in something like a CD that I mentioned, or a bond or something like that, just for now in the short term. Some of it goes into like my IRA, which is like, another retirement account, sort of like supplementing a 401k.
Do you think about retirement a lot?
I wouldn't say a lot, but I definitely think about sort of like the kind of early retirement life. I don't want to be someone working until they're 60 or 65. Like, I want to retire early. Like, I want to, like, I still want to be able to run a marathon when I'm retired. Like, I want to be able to still live a life. So I don't want to be working forever. And that's another kind of thing where I'm like, if I start really early and get a ton of money accumulated, invested, and whatnot, that'll lead me to early retirement. And I actually have a whole spreadsheet where I have like my net worth, and I update that every few months or so. Yeah. And I project out kind of like, oh well, depending on certain assumptions, if I have this much money invested, and I'm investing more and more every single month, how long will it take me to reach retirement?
Do you have a magic number?
I don't. I mean, in the spreadsheet, it's like 1.5 million, which is not the number. Like, that's
not never work again money.
That's the single income, no kids, like retirement number, right? Which is not like, I'll probably have kids, all that stuff, and that definitely skews things. So I mean, I'm assuming the real number these days, like at least 3 million, probably for someone at least like middle class plus. I think that's what you need to like retire and live a comfortable life after retirement. So I don't know what the number is specifically, but I've sort of mentioned like that 1 million by 30 is kind of the main tunnel vision goal that I'm focused on right now.
Yeah. And so do you imagine that your early retirement, is that like never work again money? Is that like where I'm 46 and this is the last job I will ever have?
Yeah, definitely. I want to be able to like just check out, take disbursements from my investments every single year, where hopefully it's like 50 to 100k or whatever I want or need to live a normal life. and just kind of enjoy it, you know?
Yeah.
Whether that means traveling or whether that means just relaxing. You know, maybe I'll do like freelancing or something like that on the side, or maybe, you know, you get bored and like you do want to work again. Who knows? Like, I can't project out. I don't even know what I'm eating for dinner tonight. Like, how am I supposed to know what I'm doing at 46, right? But you know, I want to have the optionality to where, hey, if I want to retire, like I don't need to do this job.
Yeah.
It's like, you see Everybody Hates Chris?
Yes.
Yeah. Rochelle's like, I do not need this.
My man has two jobs. Yeah.
So that's sort of like where I want to be in life.
And you've been looking for a job lately.
Yeah.
I think this is very interesting because you most accurately personify like the ideal job seeker in 2023. Like highly skilled in a profitable industry, like seeking work. How have you found that experience? Like, how long have you been looking, and what has it been like?
Yeah, honestly, it's been way smoother than I expected because you've been hearing all these kind of like layoffs and, you know, companies cutting costs and a lot of scary
especially
news.
in tech. Yeah,
especially in tech, right? But the majority of the people getting laid off are like people either in non-essential functions, like, you know, HR or marketing or something like that, where you can cut heads and still operate a business.
Yeah.
Or software engineers, where you're sort of just like, these people are expensive, and, you know, all the stories of like, oh, I'm a software engineer, I work 10 hours a week and I make $300,000. Those people are getting cut. So it leads to, you know, more work for the other software engineers, to where like an organization is just it's cutting fat pretty much.
Yeah.
So I was definitely worried about that. So I've been looking. I think in January I've pretty much finished my search now. It's March now. It's been 2 months. Now I'm just sort of in the decision phase.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I think as someone in the finance field, it's been a lot smoother. I'm not too worried about job security. There's, you know, every company needs someone in finance, right?
Yeah.
Like, otherwise they're probably not going to be profitable. Like, when something happens and it costs a lot of money, or it just doesn't make sense, like, you need the finance people to make sure like everyone's on the right track. But so I interviewed at a lot of companies, you know, did some research on a lot of industries. Frankly, I'm not too worried about industry and where I go, whether it's, you know, tech related or elsewhere. It's more so like, does the role make sense? Is the work interesting? Is the team smart? Like, that's another big thing. Like, you don't want to limit yourself by being on a team of sort of people who may not be like high performers. You want to be on a team where these people are crazy smart and you can learn a ton from them. So that's another thing that I've been considering. So I haven't had difficulty, honestly, like with my personal job search, but I feel like I also come from a privileged background, and not the sense of like my upbringing, but the sense of my post high school career, right? Like, I was able to go to a top business school, was able to get a job in a, you know, highly valued industry. So those things contributed to me sort of being like people get weeded out, and I'm able to kind of stand above the rest because of those experiences. So that those two things kind of privilege me and make it easier for me to find a job. Whereas someone who might have gone to a state school, might have just sort of done, you know, a typical financial analyst type role after college, they might have a little bit more trouble. Yeah.
Very fascinating. Very fascinating. All right. I want to talk about a lighter topic. What music have you been listening to lately?
Good question. What have I been listening to lately? I've been listening to, I don't even know how to pronounce her name, which is kind of embarrassing. But like, I think her name's Kali Uchis or something like that.
Kali Uchis.
Kali Uchis.
Yeah.
I've been listening to her.
Okay. I think Telepatia?
Nah, dude, that's old news, bro.
I mean,
that's a great song.
That was my song though when I was in Cartagena.
It's such a good song. But no, like her new song Moonlight. So she released a new album. I haven't listened to the whole thing.
Kiss, kiss.
Yeah. Dude, I've been working out to that, which is so weird.
You listen to that when you work out?
I mean, only certain workouts. You you can't be running or lifting really heavy weights with that. But
I'm
you
like
know.
when I work out, I'm like I only want to listen to like high.
Easy.
I only listen to. I just want to rock. No, I only listen to like high. I want to listen to high energy.
Yeah,
music.
yeah.
Like I would listen to that like when I'm about to go get in the sauna.
Yeah.
When I'm like stretching, leaving.
No, that's what I mean. Like very light workouts, like the ones
Mm-hmm.
that don't require you to like lift heavy weights. Like
Yeah.
I might have that type of song on. But yeah, I've been listening to actually a lot of Lil Wayne recently, and this is because I bought.
Actually,
No,
I can't. So surprised.
No,
Varun is
'cause
the biggest Lil Wayne fan.
I am.
in the biggest Lil Wayne fan in New Jersey for sure.
Lil
Maybe
Wayne,
on
if you're
the
out
East
there, dude,
Coast.
I know more of your lyrics than you do.
He loves Wheezy. That was actually part of in the beginning of our friendship how we became friends.
Well, I mean, recently, like I just bought tickets to. He started or he's doing a tour, which he hasn't done in like a day. Like I don't know, since the last time I could remember.
Mhm.
I bought tickets and super amped. It's in April, so I'm already kind of just like, getting ready, like getting excited for it. So I've been listening to a ton of Lil Wayne. Besides that, I mean, just the typical stuff, whatever's out there. Like, there's been what's it called? I don't know what's big that released recently. I've been listening to "Calm Down" by what's it called?
Rima and Selena Gomez?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Okay. Well, I'm a Selinator.
It's not even Selena that I care. It's just like the song is a vibe.
Yeah.
So that's been a fun song to listen to.
Okay.
Okay. It's been kind of all over the place, man. Like pop, hip hop,
Yeah.
a little bit of dance. Like
When you woke up this morning, what was the song that you were like, turn this shit on right now?
dude, it's been this Jay-Z song that I think I sent to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot what it was called. It's like the intro to one of his first albums. It's like 1,000,000 or questions or something like that. It's like it has a really long name because it's a 2-part song.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was listening to it. I was walking to a bookstore and I was like, it's a very interesting vibe right now.
I know.
I feel like I'm in an expository scene of a movie.
Yeah. But
Okay.
it's been a goal of mine to just listen to Jay-Z's entire like all of his music because I've just never done it, and he's always regarded as like the GOAT of rap.
One of the
and
best
I've
rappers,
never
yeah.
in my list he doesn't exist because I just haven't been exposed to enough. I mean, he's not like our generation. He's like the generation
time
before,
before,
right? I respect him. I know what he's done, right? But I don't really know his music like that.
Do you have a favorite in your odyssey through his catalog? Do you have a favorite Jay-Z album?
I'm not there yet to have a real answer.
Okay.
I still have to get through a lot. So
Yeah.
because I try. I think I mentioned this to you. I tried getting through it by like the main time I listen to music is when I'm at the gym.
Yeah.
And I tried geting through it at the gym, but his music is not gym music. Like
No, not at all.
he makes good music, but it's just not the music you want to be working out to. I remember I was trying to do a bench press, and some Jay-Z song came up, and it's not that he's boring. It's just like you want something really hype and exciting, right? And I can't be listening to that when I'm trying to like not die because there's a ton of weight on my chest.
The only Jay-Z song that I would want to be listening to while I'm working out are like the newer,
the big hitters,
like with features and stuff.
Yeah.
Like Run This Town.
Yeah.
New York, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but that's
those
not
are
like
the
his
big
like
hitters.
true catalog.
Exactly.
Okay. We're getting close to the end. I've got 3 final questions for you.
Okay.
The first question is, Varun, we're so different. Why do you think we're such good friends?
That's probably why. Because we're different. I mean, I'm able to teach you things, you're able to teach me things, and it's never boring, right? Like we don't like you mentioned that Venn diagram. You mentioned we have like one thing in that Venn diagram.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are outside, right? In my circle and in your circle, where like you're able to tell me all these things about the music industry or the entertainment industry or just random things, man, like getting a prenup. Like,
yes, get a prenup.
Get a
Everybody
prenup.
listening to Gen Z, everybody listening to Elitist Anthropology, get a prenup. That is my like soapbox. I try to tell all my friends, you have to get a prenup.
he sold me on it, so
You have to get one.
yeah, I hadn't even considered that. So those are just things like that, and then I'm able to kind of, I don't want to say impart wisdom because I don't think I'm any kind of sage or anything like that. But I'm able to like teach you things and like help you out. And like when you were in college, I was helping you like navigate your college career and kind of figure things out. And just generally, and like I think some of the things that we are both aligned with are, you're obviously much more in tune and in the entertainment industry, whereas I'm more of like just a consumer that just enjoys it, but I also love hearing about the business aspect. So it's always a fun conversation we can have.
Yeah. I just invited Varun on the pod for him to tell me all the things that he likes about me. That was my one game. Last question, Varun. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Dude, I don't know. I mean, I've considered just very recently, within the last week, I've thought about like, should I get in like a master's or an MBA? Like, I don't know. I really don't know. I have to like do a bunch of research on it. I have not really thought too hard about it. You think I should?
I think you should, because like it will be, and this was, I've been thinking a lot, I've been thinking a lot about like grad school. Do I want to go to law school? Do I want to do MFA, whatever? And I'm going to go do that other thing for 2 years. But I think that the value that you'll generate out of it would just be enormous, because it's not going to be like any sort of like great mental task.
Yeah.
Knowing you could probably go somewhere for free.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And like just like basically like do anything for clout. The clout that the clout that you'll generate off of, especially if you go to a top program. I would say maybe like if you really wanted to like do something crazy, like don't do it in the States.
Yeah.
Like maybe do it, well, you're just kind of weird, but like maybe do it somewhere like kind of exotic.
Yeah.
But I think you would get a lot.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking about. I'm like, is the clout worth it? Right?
Especially because I think like, so you've been working from home for the last like
2 years?
2 years, yeah. I think especially if you're not interested in going back into the office, I'm now at the point where I go into the office like three or four times a week sometimes.
Okay.
And there is still currency in being on the scene.
Yeah, for sure.
And so if you, what you've lost in the last 3 years or whatever of not being on the scene, you will get back in spades.
Yeah.
Doing an MBA program, even if you want to go and then just never be seen again. Like it's just like time in the streets, meeting people, getting to know people.
No, that's totally true. I definitely don't have like the network a lot of people have at this point, because I'm just meeting way less people because I'm, in my home in New Jersey. Like, I'm interacting with the people I need to interact with to get my check, and then I'm done, right? So that's totally valid, and I haven't really put too much emphasis into it. So that's one thing I need to consider. I think I'd only really consider, like, this feels kind of like clout chasey of me, but I feel like I'd only consider like the top 2 or 3, like, your Harvard or your Stanford. Like,
well, I mean, we did business in undergrad, so and There's nothing to be gained, well, quote unquote, besides like a deep specialization. There's nothing to be gained from like the general education that an MBA provides.
Yeah.
Like the main value to be derived.
It's the network. It's the clout.
Is the elitism.
Yeah, it really is.
That is the main product being sold. So I feel like that makes sense.
I don't want to be Paris Hilton's assistant, man. I want to be my own mogul.
Shout out to Kim. I got to get Kim on here. I would love to. Kim, if you're listening, Kim, I want to have you on Elitist Anthro so bad. I feel like me and her, like, that would be, oh man.
I mean, she's the guest you want for sure. I think she encapsulates it.
She just gets it.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe doing a grad program. What else?
Besides that, I mean, what is 5 years from now? I'd be 30. So I mean, hopefully get that millionaire goal finished, right?
Yeah.
I definitely would be out of my house by then, right? I think right now my goal is to like be out of there in 2 or 3 years. Just move out, do something else.
Stay in New Jersey?
No, definitely not. If I'm in New Jersey, it doesn't make any sense to not live at home.
Yeah.
Like if I'm paying rent, it's not in New Jersey. I'll tell you that much. Like my parents brought up one day, probably half jokingly, they were like, "Oh, you should pay rent to live here." And I was like, if I'm gonna pay $1,000 to live here, I will pay $1,500 and go to New York. So it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I'd probably I mentioned I'll go to LA for a year. I really liked my time so far. Every time I go to LA,
I can so see you in LA.
Yeah, definitely at least a year. Get my feet wet, see if it's my vibe for real. If not, I haven't ruled out coming back to New York. It's mad expensive, but it's potentially there. And then I don't know, honestly, like I feel like I'm not exploratory enough to be like, oh yeah, let me move somewhere really exotic like Australia or London or anything. I think I'd still want to be in the States. But those are probably the top 2 contenders. Like those are the 2 biggest cities in the States, right? I don't want to go to like Florida or, no offense, but Texas or anything like that.
Shout out to Texas, and we don't want you. I don't want any more people that are not born in the state of Texas.
He said, "Let's build a wall."
No, literally, we need I always tell people this. We need a wall on the north side. If you live in California, do not move to Texas. If you live in Atlanta, do not move to Texas. If you live in New York, Do not move to Texas.
We hear you loud and clear.
The only people allowed to move to Texas are those in border states, okay? Kansas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and I'll even spread it out a little bit. I'll go ahead and say Colorado. Anybody else, if you're thinking, oh, I want to move to Texas, oh, land is so cheap, oh, there's so much space, oh, this, oh, that, wrong answer. Move to Boise, Idaho, and leave us the hell alone. But for you, though, I stamp a special immigration card.
Okay, I respect that. So it's on the list. It's on the short list.
Okay, but you can only move to Austin. That's the DMZ.
Oh, yeah, I heard. Austin's the way to go. Nowhere else. So.
Yeah, Austin's great. Everybody that wants to move, go ahead and move there.
I'm going to be there in the summer. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, I hate it. Anyway, Varun, our time has come to a close. Thank you so much for coming. Any last words for the Elitist Anthro audience?
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the conversation.
You are so welcome. That's all for today, everybody. See you next week. Ciao.